stop talking about yourself. Nobody really cares. Talk about how you can help them. Give them information about your town. Give them information about real estate. Give them tips on what might be interesting to them, because they don't really care who you are. They care about how you can help them. And as realtors, we all ought to know that buyers don't really want realtors. Buyers want homes, and sellers don't really want realtors. Sellers want buyers. So if we can take ourselves out of that equation and fill in the role that we play as opposed to our ego and who we are, we're going to go a lot longer, and we're going to get a lot more followers. What's happening? I'm JC Agajanian, broker associate with the Whissel Realty Group, and as usual, I'm coming to you with a summary of the mastermind put on by the Fast Forward movement that takes place every Monday, even on holidays like this one. Today we have 3 great topics we're going to run through for you today. The first one being an interesting one surrounding AI. Generally, how are we going to use ChatGTP to help you accelerate your mortgage business, right? So using AI in your business, and what are some of the best standard operating procedures for that. The next one we talked about was someone wanting to put on a buyer seminar, and the question was, how are we going to get more attendance to these seminars? Interestingly enough, they'd already had good success with seller seminars, but they're focused on buyer seminars and getting more attendance to these groups. And finally, we wrapped up the morning's mastermind with a conversation about growing your Instagram following. And fortunately, we happen to have a top-notch agent just bringing lots of value on that subject. So stay tuned to the end for that one. All right, let's get into the ChatGPT and AI conversation, though. So first of all, one of the most basic things that will spring to mind when you're considering using AI for anything is something that I did. I hopped on there and I had it help me create my property descriptions. Of course, I didn't just click it and then finish it, but it did help me get from 0 to probably 75-80% finished. And then I simply had to come in and edit, because what I did was I provided some of the key selling points and some of the main, interesting parts about the home. I just plugged those in as bullet points, gave it a nice prompt, and it came out to me with a great description. I went in there, edited it, and I was good to go. Did not take that much time or energy. And for me, I don't know about you, but shifting the brain from productivity tasks or cold calling or following up with nurtures, more business kind of admin type work, or even data input into the MLS or comping out properties, shifting to creative and thinking about how to use engaging language to write about a property. For me, it's a real shift. It's a different part of the brain that is needed, and I always have to really give myself time to change gears and focus on what I'm doing when I move into that more creative space. So this is a great way to expedite that process and save a lot of time for me. Another great use of AI tools is project management and automation of planning. And a perfect example was made to basically just create your whole content calendar for the year. I mean, within a short amount of time. So one person was talking about how you can generate newsletters, ideas, social media content ideas, and the ideas are endless when you tell it what you're looking for. So the brainstorming, that creative process that I talked about, all that stuff is kind of out of the way, and you just get straight to the results. And then you're editing, choosing, deleting, yes, no, you're moving forward from there. There is kind of an art, I would say, more than a science. Maybe it's part of science too, but there's a technique that you need to use when you are entering prompts into the ChatGPT or any other AI tool for that matter. And so in this instance, you want to make sure that you explain, hey, I'm an expert. I want to take a consultative approach, right? And I want to create for example, I want to create a 25-line post with a powerful opening that hooks the reader in and then moves on. And so you can just tell them what you want. You just say it into the system. But you have to direct it. You have to tell it more specifically, not just what you want in a post, but who you are, how you want to be read and understood. right? So just keep that in mind when you're using the tool if you haven't yet. Same thing, like if you're going to be sharing information about your local town, tell it you want to act as a travel guide and the local expert on your city. And then, come up with, you know, the top 10 restaurants for an anniversary dinner out or something like that. And then you pick your favorite. And then in the text, go ahead and write that in, because that's another technique and tip that we'll use that you'll see later when we're talking about growing your Instagram followers, how that can be useful for you. You can have this thing make YouTube scripts for video content, and regardless of whether you're using ChatGPT or you're just making your own content, always be sure to be casual, relatable, conversational in your language, right? Nobody really wants to think somebody's reading from a script, or think someone is uncomfortable on camera and kind of like fumbling through their words. It's got to be like that you're a friend who's just kind of dropping knowledge real quick. Hey, did you know? Blah blah blah. It's got to be that way. Okay. And so one of the coolest things about this AI stuff is that it can easily address one of the biggest issues that almost all realtors come across, which is that we're just not consistent. And especially when it comes to social media, but in anything, whether we are doing, electronic newsletters or, bi-monthly video post or whatever the case may be, or a weekly one like this one, the trick is to be consistent. The trick is to have a familiar, relatable face and voice explaining content that people find helpful and actually are interested in, and hopefully a little bit entertained by, right? So this thing can help you with that. This tool can help you plan out your whole year. You can block out a day and plan your entire year of media content. Think of it like Russian nesting dolls too, stack them up, get these ideas, and then you can actually have like mini series based around these topics as you go through. Really, the opportunities are endless, but it's not going to remove the work. You still have to do the work. What it's going to do is help expedite the thought process, expedite, in some cases, even exactly what to say, expedite the research process of finding data that you need to use to put in your media, your content, your newsletters, whatever it's going to be. So that's the reason I say you can block out a day and you can plan your entire year, and not just, hey, I want to do this type of post twice a week, and that type of post once a week and blah, blah, blah. You can have actual actionable post and related content fleshed out all through using this tool. It's amazingly powerful. And I encourage you to play with it if you haven't already. So I talked a little bit about, getting your properties descriptions going. That's kind of basic. But, another kind of almost a little bit of a next level tip that we picked up today was the idea of having some of your best performing pieces, right? Some of the stuff that you've produced over the past year or two that has had the most views or the most clicks, or for one reason or another, maybe you thought it just really encapsulates who you are and the message that you're trying to bring the most. Well, you can have AI go read those things, and then you can tell it to write like you. You can just plug your information in there, tell it to read the stuff, and then ask it to write a description of what that style of writing is, or what that style of speaking is. And then you can save what it thinks that style is, and then apply that to new content. You can come back and say, here's a bunch of information, write it in whatever it described your style as, and then use the same exact language. And then it's going to be closer and closer to you without any needed edits. And it's just helping the AI tool learn more about you and how to speak like you, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is, like I mentioned before, you still have to do the work. This is nothing to really like set and forget. It's not just like the silver bullet, but it's amazing at helping you create something from nothing, right? You've got zero except a couple loose ideas, and then you can really fast forward to the meat and potatoes and then improve on it and get to that finished product light years faster than you would have already. So keep that in mind when you go to apply these tools to your business, and I hope you use them, and I hope they're helpful for you. So that's that on the AI tech and how we're going to use it in our business. Let's talk about buyer seminars. So if you've never done them, they're a great tool. Either seller seminars or buyer seminars. The general principle is you put a lot of time and effort into marketing and pumping up this event so that when you get a group of people together, you can give your buyer presentation or you can give your listing presentation to a room full of people instead of one person at a time. And really, you're going to get hand raisers at the end saying, yeah, that sounds good to me. And now instead of having to convince one person to say, hey, would you like to have me help you through this process and buy a home, you can do it to a bunch of people all at once. So you're leveraging time, and you're giving the same presentation you probably would to an individual. You're lightly modifying it to make sure that it's appropriate for a group of people instead of one person or a couple, and then you go from there. So I guess I would say there's probably two main philosophies that came up through the conversation this morning. One is to do it in person at a great venue where you can give them food and maybe even some drinks, and make it fun. And the other one is to do it all virtually. And I'll go through a little bit of different ideas why as we talk about the main points that were brought up today. So first of all, everyone is going to agree. You need to advertise the heck out of it. You need to advertise on Facebook, on Instagram, use ads, do Google pay-per-click. And some people even do EDDM, so every door direct mailing. And if you're unfamiliar with that, look into it. It's cheaper than a lot of other ways you can put out snail mail to people's homes. And furthermore, on top of all of that, you're going to also want to see if you can take advantage of other people's audiences. Leverage the OPA, if you will, right? Facebook groups that are maybe focused on something real estate adjacent, but not necessarily real estate specific, and you can go and plug in and make posts there and stuff like that. So all of the basics that we know about online advertising, plus hopefully you can leverage some other people's audiences. Now, what we do at our company is we actually have most of the heavy lifting done by our lender partner. And they do a lot of these ads for us, and they drive the traffic to a fun place like Dave & Buster's. We're going to give them some food. We're not going to give them an unlimited bar tab, but we're going to give them a drink ticket so we can really just have a nice, fun atmosphere. And we're going to have a handful of loan officers and a handful of realtors there. I mean, this is like a larger event that we're putting on, and there's some energy, and we actually have someone who's more of an MC than a loan officer leading this thing, and we're engaging with the people that are there, making it fun and more like an event as opposed to just like a continuing education class you might have to take at the local college or something like that, right? So this is cool and fun and educational, and at the end there's opportunity for business, of course, for all of us. Now that's the way we do it and the way a lot of people do it. However, some people like to go all virtual, and the idea behind that is that it's not so much about the event itself, but it's all about the marketing. She also talked about pushing this thing out at least 60 days, probably more, between the time she starts marketing and to the time the virtual event actually takes place. The point is to continually drive traffic to this thing. And of course, as you get people signing up, you're going to have opportunity to reach out to them. I mean, there's no sense in waiting for that day to come up to respond and be like, hey, you're coming out today. I look forward to meeting you in person. No, if they sign up for your either in-person or virtual buyer seminar, like treat them like any other lead. Reach out immediately and contact them and see how you can help them here and now, even though the event doesn't take place for either a couple weeks or a couple months away from now, right? They're going to be a little bit of a longer term nurture. This is not really a Zillow Flex, take me out to a property today type of lead response. But they're also usually pretty good and generally have pretty solid intent if they're willing to especially show up in person at an event like this, but even register for and wait for the virtual meeting. There's some intent there, and they're either serious about learning what it's going to take, so that when they are ready, they can do it, or they're ready to put the road map in place and get going right away. In either case, they're going to need nurture, but they're going to be probably pretty solid leads. Another tip, regardless of whether you're doing it online or if you're doing it in person, is to don't be too general with what you're doing. And what I mean by that is it's very common for people to say, hey, yeah, I do first-time buyer seminars, right? Well, that's kind of a niche, but that's a really broad niche. So something that's going to have better results is going to be something like learn how to buy with your VA home loan, or learn the ins and outs of buying a great Airbnb investment, or use your 1031 exchange for the first time, how to make the most of that investment property you've got. Or, hey, we're going to help you buy your last home, your forever home, to be said and done. Whatever it is, like, you can see how these specific niches are speaking to where someone's at in their life and what they're trying to accomplish. And we got reports that Airbnb one in particular did really well. So drill down a little bit more and speak to where they're at. Try and find people that are going to be really interested in what you're offering, because you don't want to be too broad, because you might lose, like, that person who wants to do a 1031 exchange is not going to come to a first-time home buyers. It's just a different person. They are doing something different in their life. So you got to know what you're after and how you're going to speak to that person. Eventbrite is a popular way that people are using to get these things signed up. And then when you are introducing yourself, this is time for you to puff up your chest and talk about how great you are. You're the king or the queen in negotiations, or you need to tell them, how many different people you have secured seller concessions for over the past 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is. Show them proof, or use other data, like, I have saved my sellers X amount over the past 2 years because of individual requests like X or something like that. But you need to really, like, pump yourself up and explain, like, there's a reason they showed up here. It's because you're here, you've got experience, you've got knowledge, and you've got a track record of success, and it's demonstrable. You can demonstrate it with facts, right? So, the other thing is, going back a little bit, we all have, or we ought to have, a process. Going back to the whole the buyer focused seminar piece of what this question is all about. Is your process documented? Is it something you can easily put on display? Can you make a slide deck out of it? Can you show people the steps that you take that help them get the same success that you've helped other people get in the past? So that's important. First of all, we hope you have a great process that you take people through. And second of all, we got to make sure that it's documented and demonstrable, so that you can put it on stage or on screen and show them what it looks like and how the process works. Another tip, as far as a little bit more on the marketing speak, as opposed to what we're actually doing, but a great frame of reference and a way you can help specifically renters who are buying for the first time understand where it is make it feel like a movement, and ask them, have you heard about the movement that we're a part of? That we're strong believers in the no renter left behind movement, and we've helped X amount of people over the past 5 years through this process, helping them go from paying somebody else's mortgage to paying for their own and building equity and financial security for their future. And sure, this is a lot of marketing speak, but it's also genuine. It's also real. It's just putting it together in a nice package and putting a bow on it. So that's it for driving more buyers to a first-time buyer seminar. And we're going to move on to the Instagram and social media conversation that we had with our killer, Lauren Taylor. She spoke up and covered most of the response time on this one. It makes sense. This woman grew her Insta profile by 60,000 followers in 45 days. On TikTok, she's got over 100,000 people following her. She's someone you want to pay attention to and listen to. And the cool thing is, she's going to be leading an entire masterclass on this subject specifically on March 13th. If you are interested in that, send me a DM and I'd be happy to get you an invitation to the Lauren Taylor Masterclass. You can find her on any social media platform and see for yourself what I'm talking about. Don't take my word for it. She's a G. So, the first thing she mentioned is, hey, stop talking about yourself. Nobody really cares. Talk about how you can help them. Give them information about your town. Give them information about real estate. Give them tips on what might be interesting to them, because they don't really care who you are. They care about how you can help them. And as realtors, we all ought to know that buyers don't really want realtors. Buyers want homes. And sellers don't really want realtors. Sellers want buyers. So if we can take ourselves out of that equation and fill in the role that we play as opposed to our ego and who we are, we're going to go a lot longer and we're going to get a lot more followers as it relates to this subject here. She talked about, the content that you're going to be posting. Make most of it personal. Make most of it helpful. Don't be the, just sold, just listed, coming soon, pending, and that's your whole feed. I know that's going to touch a nerve because that's a lot of you guys. But that's not the way to go. We got to make it personal. You want to share about your family, share about what you're doing for fun, share about things that you can do that are helpful to them. And then, oh, by the way, I'm kicking ass at real estate over here. Take a look, and that's maybe 25, 30% of what you're doing, maybe at the max 50, but you want to keep it more personal, more help related, more educational related, and less real estate related. Okay. And that's a paradigm shift for a lot of people, but it's something we got to focus on. Some other kind of more logistical and specific tips that she gave is to select. This is a great way to build followers because it'll actually attract people you don't know as opposed to only go to people that you're already friends with. But use a short trending sound that kind of loops, right? So no specific beginning, no specific end. Pair it with a clip that you've chosen that you also kind of just insert, right? So there's no obvious beginning and no obvious end to that clip. And then so you've got a sound that we know is popular, and we've got a clip that will go nicely with, and then you've got a lot of information in the description. That's a great recipe for a audience building post, okay? So the other thing to do is to use a good top teaser headline, with lots of text in the description. Lauren, likes to do a lot of text over her video of herself. I'm not going to argue with her because what she is doing is working. But when I come across her feed and I see that stuff, I kind of my mind kind of goes, do I want to read all this? And I keep going. But I got to think that I'm the anomaly and that what she's doing is right, because what she's doing is gaining massive following. And I just have my opinions over here. So I'm going to follow her lead on that. But basically the idea is that Instagram is going to see people reading over the description that is lengthy. Meanwhile, the video is just kind of playing, and you likely muted it anyways, right? So the video's playing. Instagram thinks that you're just sitting there watching this video because it's so enthralling, but really what you're doing is just taking the time to kind of read what she put in the caption and understand what she's saying. And then that watch time just builds, and now you're going to continue to get more followers because the algorithm understands that you've got someone's attention. You did your job. And so you got their attention, they're watching, they're reading, and they're paying attention. So like I said before, make sure it's casual, talk normal, don't be scripted and robotic, don't feel awkward. And if you come off that way, just do it a lot more. Do it a lot more, because eventually it will feel more natural. But you got to get through the steps where it's awkward, robotic, feeling very scripted. You got to move past that, and you got to figure out how for yourself to move past that, because it's got to get to a point where it feels comfortable and natural and it just flows. You've got to humanize yourself, okay? So yeah, the final tip that she threw out there was that you've got to make yourself the most comfortable, the easiest, the least friction type of person to be reached out to directly. Focus on your engagement more than the post itself, more than the followers. Focus on that engagement. A lot of people build their following by going and posting all the time comments, and not just hearts or thumbs up, but actual comments on other people's posts without even that many posts of their own. Just going out and specifically blocking time to go comment like crazy on other people's things that are happening can actually encourage the same thing and get you more views as well. So we're going to wrap it up right there. That's it for increasing your followers on Instagram. I hope you have benefited from the summary of the mastermind that I'm bringing you from this morning. Of course, using AI in your real estate business and getting more attendance to your buyer seminars. And like we just wrapped up, building that Instagram following. As usual, send me a DM with any questions or comments. Happy to help in any way that I can. And make it a great week.